Hello, guys. We are gonna start another session with Dr. Cynthia. Yes, Dr. Cynthia, if you could please send me a request so I can just add you in the video. Got it. Oh, got it. Okay.
Hi, hold on, let me see. Wait, that's not the right way.
Okay.
Why is I feel like
Hello.
the camera and yours are like different.
Oh, is it different? Let me fix it. Just give me 1 second then. Mm.
I think you're like I'm portrait and you're landscape.
Sorry. Is
There.
it? What's going on? How about now?
Yeah, this works now.
Right. Okay. So, welcome to our channel, live Instagram takeover at IMG Helping Hands. Dr. Cynthia, how have you been doing today?
I've been good. Just today's my only day off. I just came off nights, so
Oh,
I'm pretty tired. I had to squeeze in like all my life appointments today. And then I found out that someone tried to impersonate my PA, so I was trying to fix that the last hour.
is it fixed right now?
Go back for resident. Um, I think it's taken down, but I don't know for sure.
Oh, got it. Okay. I know it's difficult when you're a resident. You have to do a lot, go out a lot of different things.
Yeah, that's just no time for
We
anything.
Yeah, we have our folks here with us. Now we are going to ask a few questions about your life for you being a resident here in anesthesia, because we know it's very difficult to go in the specialities like anesthesia and radiology.
Hmm.
So also I would like to talk about how you transition to the American healthcare system, and later on we can talk about the residency interviews. Okay, got
Sure.
it. Okay, so guys, we have Dr. Cynthia, who is from Malaysia, and she is a resident at New Jersey Medical Center in New Jersey in anesthesiology. And welcome to our team, Dr. Cynthia.
Thank you.
Welcome. So, Dr. Cynthia, would you like to go ahead about your journey and how did you came to the States?
Sure. So, like you said, I was born in Malaysia. I grew up in Australia actually. Spent
Okay.
majority of my life there, and then went to medical school in the UK. And after that, I decided that, well, while I was in medical school, I decided I wanted to come to the US. So I pursued my USMLEs, did my USCEs, my whole US journey, and then eventually applied and matched in 2021. So now I'm a PGY2 on my second year of anesthesia residency. It's been very busy, but I'm just so grateful to be here and like be, in the middle of residency now.
Oh, okay, that sounds great. Well, what do you think about anesthesiology? Is it difficult for IMGs, or or any IMG can, if they have a passion for anesthesiology, they can get it?
Um, Anesthesia is definitely not an easy specialty to get into. It's very competitive.
Mm.
Even for USMDs, it's a pretty competitive specialty. But in saying that, like you said, if you're passionate about anesthesia, I feel like if someone's passionate about something, they would be driven to do well in it. They would be driven to get good grades or get clinical rotations in anesthesia, and as a result, build up that CV and that portfolio to apply into anesthesia. So for me, I set my USMLEs and did my med school and my exams in the UK. But I did my US clinical rotation in the US in anesthesia so that I could build that pathway and that network into getting into anesthesia. So as a result of my clinical rotation,
Mhm.
I had mentors, I had letter writers, and just people that were willing to help me build that way to getting into anesthesia.
Oh, that sounds great. And what do you think you will advise your juniors who are still in the medical school so they can plan things ahead to go into the residency of anesthesiology?
So I think the biggest and most important thing for IMGs, especially IMGs outside of the Caribbean, because I know Caribbean med schools allow you to do clinical rotations in the US.
Hmm.
For IMGs from all around the world, definitely getting a US elective and a US rotation is really, really important. Not only because it gives you like an insight into the US healthcare system, and like how anesthesia works in the US, but also because you make connections, and connections are one of your biggest things and your biggest allies in applying for residency here in the US.
Mhm. Got it. Okay. So I guess what I have understood is like they should be targeting towards the anesthesiology by doing things ahead of time, making connections if they can come to do rotations here, or making some good connections with the program directors and associate PDs and the residency programs, right?
Yeah, so like, when you come and you do your rotations, it's an opportunity for you to meet people. It's an opportunity to
Hmm.
showcase like your abilities, and like how hardworking you are, how well you get along with everyone else. And it's a chance for you to meet people and for them to be like impressed by you, and then that just becomes a huge, huge factor that helps you in your whole process. For me, I was very lucky to have had a great rotation and mentors that ended up being people who stayed in contact with me over, I did my rotation in 2018 and I applied in 2020. So they stayed in contact with me for 2.5 years and then helped me through my whole application journey.
Oh, okay, that's help. Okay, that sounds great. So let's move towards like how I know you must have a very great interview skills. So what do you think about if anyone asks, tell me about yourself in the interview, and what would be your answer would be?
So I think that's like, it's funny because it's the most asked question, but it's also the
Yep.
most tricky question.
Yep.
I always tell people to give a 2 to 3 minute answer. You start with who you are, what you've achieved, what you've done, and then where you see yourself. So it gives them a well-rounded answer of everything about you, but enough for them to want to ask questions.
Oh.
So, I mean, I did my interview over 2 years ago now, so I don't remember my answer exactly, but I remember saying starting with like, I'm Cynthia, and I was told not to do medicine, and I was told not to be a doctor, but here I am today. I grew up
Mhm.
in Malaysia, went to med school in the UK,
Mhm.
moved around a lot, and then now I'm applying for anesthesia in the US. And I really hope to be able to match into anesthesia, and I see myself doing X, Y, Z. My
Mm.
answer was somewhere along the lines of that. I can't remember what it was exactly, but it's you just want to give them enough so that they get a summary of you, but enough for them to be intrigued and be like, okay, you mentioned this and you tell me about yourself, tell me more. And then it starts and opens up a whole door of conversation, and makes your whole interview process so natural.
Oh, okay, got it. Okay, that sounds great. So meanwhile, we will also take questions from our audience. So
Mhm.
here we got another question from Angela. She said, not an IMG, but really respect your journey and success. What are some things in your application that stood you out during your interviews? And what do you think played the biggest role in the matching?
So things that stood out for me, I think, were, achievements that were non-medical, like outside of med school, and things like my hobbies and interests came up a lot and were things that I spoke about during my interviews and things I was asked about during my interview. Another thing for me, was that I did a master's in public health, and a lot of interviewers asked me about that. So I think that stood out because I mean I know a lot of people do an MPH or an MSc, but um, I think it just stood out because it filled in my gap years. I had 2 gap years, and I ended up doing a master's during that time, just so that I filled in my gaps. Um, so talking about my interests and also just being honest. I was asked questions during my interview where I could have given like a perfect book answer or I could have given an honest answer, and I chose with the honest answer. And there were times where it ended up becoming like they were like, oh, like really, you think that, or really, you feel that way? Tell me more. And I think an interview is just a great way for you to have good conversations with different people, and you want to show them that you're someone that doesn't get phased easily, but is able to withstand any situation. I had a question that came up about universal healthcare versus private healthcare and insurance, and I stood my ground with what I knew, and I think the interviewer was very impressed by that, by just being honest and being who I am.
Mm.
And the thing that played the biggest role in my matching, I think I think it's really hard to say because I like quite a few people told me that I had a great personal statement and wrote again an honest personal statement but covered a lot of things about myself. But also another big factor I would probably say is my mentors. You know, my mentors with their letters they wrote and phone calls they made. I had a mentor, like whenever I got an interview, they would call and be like, yeah, this you should take this person. So those were things that really helped me.
Oh, that sounds great. I know mentorship is very important in this journey, and if you have great mentors with you on board, that's it. You need, like, that's one of the best things you could do.
Yeah.
So if they are willing to make phone calls, this means that they're really impressed by you, and you also deserve to be in the residency. So yeah.
Thank you.
So she answered about. Thank you so much for your answers. Super insightful. Okay, thank you so much. Okay. So secondly, I would like to go. There are many different residency interview questions which the people face difficulty. And yesterday I received another question which one of the folk was having a difficulty, and she said, "What's the biggest difficulty in your life which you have faced, and how did you overcome it?" So would you like to go ahead, and how would you be answering this?
Um, that's a great question.
Thank you.
I think like so how would I personally answer that or how like people like how people should answer that? Which one would you want me to go
Any,
with?
anything that's up to you.
I think for me, my biggest difficulty and the biggest hurdle I had to face in my life was moving to the US. So I moved here and then the pandemic hit. I had no family. I was pretty much alone. Like my spouse was, you know, he was always busy working. I rarely saw him, and I just was navigating this new country all on my own. With you know no physical support. Yeah, like a lot of my family and friends would support me via like technology, WhatsApp, so FaceTime. But I went through a really dark time, and I ended up having severe clinical depression. I needed to go on medications. I needed to see a therapist,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a period of my life where I did not think I would ever get out of. So that was my biggest and most difficult part of my life to date. Um, but I got out of it, and how I got out of it was, you know, like having the support system that I had, even though they were so far away,
Mm-hmm.
and realizing that I cannot do everything on my own and I needed help.
Mm-hmm.
So seeing a psychiatrist and going on meds and studying therapy, and it got me through, and it got me here today, and like you know, I'm like over a year now from I guess being depression free, and I like yeah, there's still tough dark days, but I have come out of that deep dark moment, and I never thought I could come out of. So that is one of the most difficult things that I've had to face in my life.
Yeah, I also agree. For example, even if you have any small difficulty, but bringing up a genuine one in front of residency programs is a great idea. Although this could be an ethical dilemma that about the mental health, because most of the people don't like discussing about the mental health and mental problems. But
Yeah.
that's one of the best thing you did, and I guess everybody who is trying to answer this question should think that what was the biggest difficulty or challenge in their life, right?
Yeah, and I think like the mental health aspect can be a very difficult answer to bring up in your interviews because you don't want them to feel like they won't take you because you struggled. Um, but I think a lot of programs now are more open to realizing that everyone struggles with their mental health and
Mhm.
everyone do go through like difficult times. Um, you know, I did bring up in my interviews that I struggle mentally, like, and um, yeah, I was open about it. But not everyone, I'm not telling everyone here to go out there and be open about it. And I'm also not telling everyone that that's the right approach. But you kind of just have to see like where you are in your journey. You know, I was getting better. So I was willing to share because I was getting better. But if I was not getting better, I probably wouldn't have been willing to share.
No, that's true actually. So yeah, we got another question from Goel Rodak. What are some of the non-academic activities that stood you out in your application?
So my biggest one is actually scuba diving. So I'm a rescue scuba diver. I'm trained to be a rescue scuba diver, which was a very interesting thing I could share about in my interview. It has a lot of critical medicine aspects to it. You know, a lot of physics and like sciences, which kind of tied in with anesthesia. So that was like one thing that really stood out for me. Other things that stood out for me was like my hobbies, you know, things I enjoy doing, like yoga, um, having a dog, baking and cooking. I shared all of those things in my interviews, and it came up and we got to speak about it.
No, got it. Okay, that sounds great. I know scuba diving is one of the best thing which could lead the conversation forward, right?
Yeah, it was definitely very
Because
interesting.
yeah, because everybody is not a scuba diver, and also the rescue scuba diver. Yeah. So we got another question. Okay. So thanks for sharing, doctor. More power to you. Okay. Just wanted to know, is this challenge something you would share in your interview? Yes, definitely. Dr. Cynthia shared this during her interview.
Yeah, like I said, it really depends on your situation, where you're at, and how you feel the conversation's going. I'm also not saying to lie, but I'm just saying it's okay to leave it out if you don't feel like it's a place for you to share it.
Got it. Okay. So Angela asked another question. Any tips for finding solid mentors that will advocate for you in the future match cycle?
Yeah, definitely. So, my biggest thing for finding solid mentors is looking for someone, during your rotations that you, number one, get along really well with, and someone that is like that you've spoken to about writing you a letter, and like someone that you told that you were applying to XYZ specialty and that you would love for them to help you and guide you. And if they've agreed to mentor you, do not lose like track of connecting with them. I would email them once every few months, like once every 2 months, just to check in, be like, hey, like just dropping an email, seeing how you are, just wanting to let you know that these are the things that I've done in the last few months since we last met or since we
Mhm.
last spoke. Update them with what's happening with your life, update them as well with what's happening with your medical school career. And
Mhm.
also any changes, any new things you want to add to your CV. Oh, I just published this. Oh, I just presented here.
Mhm.
Keep in contact with them, because when it comes to finally advocating for you, they want to be able to advocate for someone they know. And if you've kept in contact with them, they
Mhm.
feel like they know you. And then even little things and simple things like during Christmas, sending them a Merry Christmas email, or like a message, New Year's, Happy New Year's, or whatever holidays they celebrate. Just like having that human connection, because at the end of the day, these mentors are also humans.
That's true, yeah. So definitely it's a great idea to update them about your achievements, what you have been doing, or what's your future goals. And also, I guess there was another aspect of this question, which was how to find, for example, how to find a new mentor. Which, for example, if I'm sitting here in New Jersey or I want a mentor in California, right? I can only email. So they get so many emails. Like, for example, an average program director, like one of the program director was telling me that he get like around about 700 emails a day during all this match season. So
Yeah.
kind of difficult to respond to every email. So this is how you are going to be standing out. Like just mention the specific attributes. For example, if you want mentorship, just write in it in detail, like what you do you expect from your mentor and what areas you are really looking for. Because after reading that specific message, they're more inclined to provide you the mentorship as compared to just if I'm sending a random text of 2 or 3 lines that I want you to be a mentor, right?
Exactly. You want you like a lot of people are inundated with like emails that I'm looking for a mentor, I'm looking for research or whatever. But the more specific you can get and the more you can give them about yourself, the better it will be.
Okay, got it. Okay, like let's talk about more about the interviews and what else do you recommend during the interview or the whole match cycle? Like what should a candidate who has no experience, because in many countries people are not trained to give the interviews. So what do you suggest to a person who is very new to this process? How can he or she make their skills better?
So if you're someone who has like family or friends who have been through these interviews, ask them to do a mock interview session with you. Um, you want to be able to do this with people and try and see like how you answer questions, how you feel talking on the screen. Um, I did not do any mock interviews myself, but I'm someone that struggled to practice because I don't want to come across too robotic. But I know people who need the practice and want the practice, so they do mock sessions, and it varies for different people, right? Like some people are good with it, some people don't need it. I always say to have dot points of answers to the most common questions you want, but never have written full answers, because if you're reading a written full answer, they can tell and they can see that, and you don't want to come across someone who's just like plain robotic, like wrote everything out. You want to be natural and be engaging in your conversation. So I would always go with dot points so that you can just let the conversation flow. Um, if you don't want to practice with someone, you can practice yourself. You can like record yourself on video or Zoom or photo booth or whatever, just to see how you act in front of a screen. And then obviously there are paid interview sessions that you can do out there you can use as well. But my biggest tip is having dot points for important questions. Keep your answers short and sweet, but enough for them to know what's going on. And if you're someone that needs to practice, practice.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, I guess what they could do is just discuss to people, even if, when they're in States, because right now in States, everybody speaks English.
Mm-hmm.
So talking to random people and giving just having a thought from different people, like how you are doing during the interview, is a great idea. Yeah. So we got another question here which is, does CK score compensate year of graduation?
Um, I honestly don't know the answer to that because I think so having a good CK score obviously helps you a lot,
Mm-hmm.
but some programs are very strict with their year of graduation. So I really honestly don't know the answer to that. I think it varies from program to program, and you should always check and see what the program's requirements are in terms of year of graduation.
Yes, because if there are many programs, like there are many programs who really care about the year of graduation. But if you find a program that doesn't really care about for that specific program, obviously the CK score will matter because now they want to have any criteria that could explain if this person is a better or not,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, I guess for those programs it could be criteria. Also, okay, so we got just want to make a request. Could you please upload this interview? It is very helpful. Yeah, definitely we can upload after that. And then we have another question. Do you think it's a good idea to go for a sub-I in a different specialty at an institute you really want to attend, but does not provide a rotation in your chosen specialty?
Um, if it's a similar specialty, so for example, if you're applying for IM and it's an FM or something, then yeah, it's fine. Because there are some overlaps and it's an opportunity for you to meet other people. But if you're applying for example, general surgery and you're going to do an IM sub-I, then no, it won't be helpful because like they're going to ask you, why did you do this sub-I when you're applying for this other specialty?
Okay, got it. So there was another question here. He was asking about the visa interview something stuff. Kindly guide me about the visa process. What if we don't get J1 visa for the physical interview? Is it virtual interview okay?
So most programs are now doing virtual interviews for the residency application cycle. So you wouldn't need to get a visa for a physical interview. They're mostly virtual now.
More than 90%.
Yeah, most interviews, and I think AMC actually released a statement last cycle to say that most of the interviews are going to be virtual.
Yeah, that's great. But even if someone is doing I'm sorry, for the like the on-site interview, if you can request them that I am unable to get a visa, so they can arrange the virtual interview. I
Mhm.
guess they will not decide on the basis of the virtual
Yeah.
interview or the on-site one.
And most J1 visas are offered after you have like matched into a position. So
Yeah, that's great. Okay. Okay. So another question here is, will doing uh, will doing core surgical training in UK will add any value while applying in general surgery residency in the US?
yes, so the CST training or even the CMT for people in the UK doing medicine definitely helps. Like, so I actually did do a year of my medical training in the UK. I did my FY 1 year,
Mhm.
and it helped and it reflected well in my application. So having worked as a doctor or a physician in your home country always helps. If you have like a research, you have people and letters and like things that can vouch for your skills, they always help.
Okay, thanks. That sounds great. So another question we got is, can you apply to different specialties during the match? Yeah.
Yes, you can. So it's called like dual applying or what, like if you apply to more than two, then it's like triple applying or whatever. A lot of people, especially IMGs, do dual apply because they know they may not get into one specialty and they're okay doing something else. You just have to make sure you cater your letters and your personal statements to the different specialties you're applying to. But it's fine to do it. programs are not actually meant to ask you if you dual apply, so it shouldn't have to come up during an interview.
Yeah, definitely. But if any program specifically ask about did you apply in any other specialties, I would say to just tell them honestly, because if you are applying in other specialties, your application is reflecting that. That's why the program is asking about you.
Mm-hmm.
And what is the deciding factor for the program to rank an immigrant high? This is what.
So with immigrants, like you have to see like does this program traditionally take IMGs? Yes or no? No, then don't, like it's unlikely they will take IMGs. So if you can afford to apply, sure, but if not, then don't waste that money applying.
Mhm.
Then look at programs who do take IMGs. Do they take all IMGs? Do they take some IMGs? That will help you realize like how IMG friendly that program is, and how they would rank, immigrants. And from there, like looking at if someone takes IMGs frequently, then it's just about your application, your CV, your personal statements, your letters, and how they all rank as a whole, and how you do on your interview.
Yeah, so there are multiple factors. They cannot decide on just a single factor. It's your CV, your LORs, like also your interview day performance. So the next question we got is this type of research matter? Like I did three in my home country, is the US based research important?
So you don't need to have US-based research. You can have research from anywhere. Um, so home country research is totally fine if you publish and like have, your PubMed ID for it or like the journal article for it, then you can include that. Or, even if it's like an abstract or whatever it is, if you have done research anywhere in the world, it's counted.
Okay, got it. Okay, that sounds great. So the next question we got is, can you throw some light on the UK research programs that would help you get a paid postdoctoral research fellow position in the US?
Could you repeat that question? I missed the first part.
He's asking, can you throw some light on the UK research programs that would help you get a paid postdoctoral research fellow position in the US?
So you're talking about UK research to help you with getting a paid job in the US?
Yes. So let me explain. Like for what he means is, uh, there are many candidates. What they do is they try to get some experience of research in their home country, and they apply for the postdoctoral research fellow position in the U.S. Many hospitals offer this position. It's more and a few like many people do this before residency to increase the chance of having a match. So that's what he's asking. Yes, definitely, I can go ahead with this answer. Yeah, definitely, the research will help you get a paid position, but you have to be doing like mass emails to different programs so you can get the position.
Um, but like sorry, I'm just confused about what they meant by the UK research programs. Because in the UK, you can do like clinical research years or like research like fellow years where you do like part research and part clinicals. Um, but unless this person means like a specific research program, then I'm not familiar with that.
Oh, okay, got it. So Madiha asked next question, which is, what are some unique questions to ask in the interview from faculty?
To ask, what are some unique questions to ask in interviews from faculty? So for us to ask the faculty, or for them, like unique questions that people ask me?
Or from us, like we as a
So
candidate.
for like questions I can ask during interviews, right? I always say to have like 5 questions ready because you want to show interest in asking them. So you can ask things like, what's your favorite thing about your program? What are changes that you have seen in your program or what are changes that you would like to see in your program? I always ask about like fellowship matches. And then if an interviewer themselves are IMG, I would ask them what brings them to the US, which I had an interviewer that was an IMG. And we ended up talking about difficulties of being an IMG and open up a whole conversation, which was great. Um, and then you can always ask program specific questions. So depending on which programs you have an interview with, always spend time researching, looking on their website, seeing what they offer, and ask questions that are specific to that program.
Oh, okay, that sounds great. So the next question we got at, so what if a program haven't taken any IMG? What's the best thing to show and attract them?
So you have to see like, are they not taking IMGs because they historically just don't, or are they not taking IMGs because of like visa issues? If it's like visa issues, then that's kind of out of your control. But if they historically don't because they just haven't had a good IMG, then obviously show them that
Mhm.
you're, a great applicant, that you like, you fit in well in that program. Try and get a rotation there so that they can see how well you work and how like good you are and how well you will fit in.
Yeah, that's true. And one of my mentor also mentioned if any program is not taking IMG, so try to do a rotation over there, and then you can increase your chance. And the next question, can a person apply in medicine and surgery simultaneously?
Um, yes, you can. I know a lot of people who have done that as IMGs.
Mhm.
But like I said, just make sure you cater your letters and your personal statement and your application to the different specialty.
Yeah, but also make sure you're not losing the chance of having a match in a specialty. For example, if you're applying into like surgery as well as medicine, you don't want to give a sense to both of the programs that you are not sincere with their program
Yeah,
or
so make
with
sure
this
like it's
specific field.
personalized, it's catered to that specialty. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I guess let's take the last question. Go ahead. Okay. So do all the letters hold equal value? Like if an LOR is from first 3 years of med school.
So, Clint, like, LOS should reflect you clinically. For the specialty you're applying to. So, for example, if you're applying to anesthesia, you want LORs usually from anesthesia. If you're applying to medicine, you want LORs from medicine. But the thing that people do use LORs that are not only clinical, but just about an individual as a person and their skills and abilities during med school. And that's fine. But the later, the closer the LOR is, so the later in your career it is to your application, usually that's better.
Mhm.
Um, but if you have, let's say, a great mentor from the first 3 years of med school who speaks very highly of you and knows you very well, then that letter will also weigh a lot of weight.
Oh, okay, that sounds great. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Cynthia, to be with us. And also, our goal with this show and company is to introduce people to so they can execute their like ideas of getting into the residency programs, and also it could help in their future endeavors. So thank you so much with us. We are also starting another channel, which is Health is a Priority. So definitely we will like to invite you for that one too. And
Thank
also,
you so much. Thanks for having me today.
thank you so much. You're welcome. Have a great
Bye.
day. Bye bye.